Thank you for downloading this episode of Folk on Foot. Before we start, I just wanted to share a brief message. If you like what we do, we really need your support to keep going. You can join our wonderful band of members and you'll get great rewards. These include access to our amazing Folk on Foot on Film archive of hundreds of songs shot on location on our travels around the UK and Ireland. To sign up, just go to folkonfoot.com/support us. You'll also get an ad-free version of all our episodes and an email postcard from me each time we go on a walk. If you just want the ad-free version, it'll cost you £3 a month, and you can get it through your Apple Podcast app or at folkonfoot.com/support us. Finally, if you don't want to make a regular commitment but do want to show how much you love us, you can simply buy us a coffee. You can also do that at folkonfoot.com/support us. Every penny we get goes back into making more episodes of Folk on Foot. So thank you and enjoy the walk. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for coming. I'm Matthew Bannister and I'm the host of Folk on Foot, and this is a new experiment for us. We've never actually done a recording with an audience before, or we have actually done one with a baby. This is Rosa, Adam and Laura's baby. She's coming with us. But I just need to say a few things before we set off. We're going to take a very easy walk down the South Downs Way to the village of Southease. There might be some uneven surfaces. We may go over a stile or two, and it is a bit slippy underfoot. We are recording, so it would be lovely to have your applause at the end of the songs and things like that. But it would be really helpful not to have people talking in the background when we're walking along interviewing or when we're recording the songs. Jeremy's very used to it. Jeremy, our filmmaker, has to keep quiet while he's making films. And that's the other thing to say, is that we are shooting film. So if you're here with somebody you shouldn't be here with, or you wouldn't like to be in the film, would you let us know so that we can exclude you? So anybody want to be disappeared? No. So, are there any questions at this stage? No? Okay. Let us begin. This is a very unusual episode of Folk on Foot. We are at the Youth Hostel Association South Downs base on the South Downs Way, and we are part of a festival of outdoor podcasting called the Tremula Festival. And I'm delighted to say that for the first time ever, we are joined by a small but perfectly formed audience who are going to follow us on our walk here today. Do you want to say hello, everybody? Give us a cheer. Hey. Here they are. And I'm also delighted to say that our guests are Ben Webb, Laura Ward, Adam Ronchetti and Tom Pryor, otherwise known as Bird in the Belly. Fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you for coming. And I remember seeing you last on the big walk last summer, when you kindly came and played in the pub for us.
And it was such a lovely afternoon, wasn't it?
It was brilliant. There was a lovely atmosphere in the pub, wasn't there?
Really, really nice.
We're going to cap that here.
Heavily pregnant at the time.
You were.
And now with screaming baby.
So you brought the baby along?
Brought the baby just for added peril, really.
What's her name?
Rosa.
And who's going to look after her while you're singing?
Well, Grandad, otherwise known as Gang Gang.
Okay.
I mean, she's not talking yet, but we're trying to force the Gang Gang on her.
Are you?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so she can be sweet and
exactly,
cute.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, well, look, can you start us off with a song? You've got your
Happy to.
instruments here. We've got a fiddle, we've got a guitar. Why don't you give us a song and then we'll talk about what the song is after it?
Great.
strokes his sunburned head. The slighted park view cambric muslins whiten. The dry machines revisit ocean's bed, and Horace quits a while the town for Brighton. The sit foregoes his box at Turnham Green to pick up health and shells with Amphitrite. Pleasure's frail daughters trip along the steam, led by the dame the Greeks call Aphrodite. Phoebus the tanner plies his fiery trade. The graceful nymphs ascend Judea's ponies, scale the west cliff or visit the parade. While poor Papa in town a patient droning. Loose trousers snatch the wreath from pantaloons. Nankeen of late were worn the sultry weather in, but now so will the prince's light dragoons. Light jeans have triumphed over their well-dressed brethren. Here with choice food earth smiles and ocean yawns, intent alike to please the London glutton. This for our breakfast proffers shrimps and prawns, that for dinner south down lamb and mutton. Yet here as elsewhere death impartial reigns, visits alike the cot and the pavilion, and for a bride with equal scorn disdains. My half a crown and Barling's $500,000. Alas, how short the span of human pride. Time flies and hope's romantic schemes are undone. Coswello's coach that carries four inside waits to take back the unwilling bard to London. Your circulating novelists adieu. Long envious cords my black portmanteau tighten. Billiards be gone, avaunt illegal loo. Farewell, old ocean's bauble glittering Brighton. Farewell, old ocean's bauble glittering Brighton.
But that was fantastic. And Ben, it's a song about a weekend away in Brighton, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's from a poet called Horace Smith, and he wrote about coming down from London to Brighton for a weekend of Victorian hedonism.
Well, what sort of things did he get up to?
Buying pantaloons, mainly, and eating a lot of food. It's not the wildest of weekends, but he had a nice time.
And it's appropriate for you because you're based in Brighton, aren't you?
Yeah, the four of us live in Brighton now, yeah, so we're pantaloon buyers ourselves now.
Well, shall we set off on our walk?
Yeah, that would be good.
Just let you pack up your instruments and then we'll get going.
Okay. That's so beautiful.
That was gorgeous.
Really
yeah,
gorgeous.
beautiful.
Slight little cry at the end.
That's all right.
That's nice.
Appreciation.
So I'm interested to learn a little bit more about Bird in the Belly and how you all came together, because I think you describe yourself as a collective rather than a band, don't you?
Well, do you know what we did? But that might be language we need to ditch from our material at this point.
Okay.
We're all doing separate musical things, weren't we? So Adam and I were a duo, Hickory Signals, and Ben performed under the name Jinwoo, still does, as a solo artist, and I knew Tom from years ago, having played oddly in a hip-hop collective with Tom.
A hip hop collective.
Yeah, of course.
Naturally.
That's how we met. And I think both of us went, how have we ended up here? This is a bit odd. And came back together then playing folk music, which is where we should have been all along, really.
And when you say folk music, what do you mean by that? Because obviously we could be here for some hours discussing the definition of folk music, but to you, what does it mean?
I mean, I was like raised listening to folk music, all sorts of stuff, mainly Irish, and was particularly interested in kind of songs and lyrics and words and stories.
Oh, a cyclist coming through.
Move out the way.
Cyclist through. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Morning. So you were saying you were raised listening to folk music.
Yeah, and I guess same for you, Ben, as well.
Yeah, I was sort of raised on revival folk from the 60s, so Frankie Armstrong and June Tabor and Nick Jones.
That was your mum and dad listening to that? wasn't
Yeah, forcing it down. Oh, no.
Well, it could go two ways, can't it? That you could either rebel against it and become a goth, or join a hip hop collective. Yeah. So why was it that kind of music appealed to you? Do you think?
I think the stories. There's so much depth in the stories. They're interesting because there's the history there of the UK, which is really interesting, but also they're strangely relatable. And I think the more we sort of dug into the lyrics of these songs as a band, we realised how much we could relate to them or relate them to our day jobs. So they just seem really relevant to us still.
When you say relevant, in what way?
Just like the emotions and things people were feeling, the situations people were facing. For our second album, we spent a lot of time with folk singer Frankie Armstrong, and she...
One of the legends of the folk revivals.
Absolutely. And she was telling us about
50s.
the importance of looking at social issues through folk music as well. And that really sort of changed our direction when we were collecting lyrics together, and we saw the importance of doing that and how a lot of these issues are still being faced.
Exactly, and I think we changed our approach a bit thanks to the likes of Frankie.
Yeah.
Because certainly in our first album, where the song we just played, Horace in Brighton, features on, there was a lot more kind of like pastoral stuff, nature stuff that we just loved the sound of and loved, the words of them, the feel of them, which was fine and good enough. You know what I mean? From when we first started doing stuff and finding songs to arrange. But we just got thinking more about it, like you say, Ben, didn't we? When we started talking to other folk singers and finding out about, I guess, their motivations for choosing songs and how they came to be. And it was really interesting because there was such a split. Some people would say, well, it's always about the words. Like, the melody's neither here nor there. The words would be the thing to draw me in. And then others would say, the words I barely even listened to, but it was all about the melody. And like, give me a melody in the minor key, and I'll do the song all day long. Words be damned. So it was
where
interesting.
Did you fall in that discussion?
We sort of rolled around all over it.
And you were deliberately going out, and I think you were filming, weren't you? Didn't you make a film with all the different people that you interviewed?
But yeah, we set out we went on hours of drives to speak to different folk musicians and researchers that we respected sort of all over the country. And we kind of originally wanted it to inform our practice. We did it as a kind of research thing for ourselves, but then we kind of bit off more than we can chew and said we should make this into a documentary, and foolishly told our PR woman that we're going to do that, and then we haven't done anything with it.
So you've got a great archive of interesting insights into the folk world.
And if anyone wants that, they're welcome to it.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah.
But look, we've come to a railway crossing, a level crossing here, and I think there's a bridge. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over the bridge rather than across directly because I feel it's safer to do that. But let's get our way across the railway now. What we really want now is a train.
Yeah, just to prove that
we're on the railway.
To say choo-choo.
Is Rosa going to be all right?
Yeah, Dad's got an offer of support from another granddad.
Okay, great.
Granddads Unite.
The Grandad Union.
The Grandad Union,
Yes,
exactly.
I'm a granddad, so
Yeah, you could join
I
if you
could help.
fancy.
just at the top of the bridge now. I mean, this is a wonderful vantage point actually on the railway bridge. We can see the South Downs behind us, and you might hear the noises of the traffic from the main road over there. And something's going on. Is there a train coming? Yes, a train is coming, and it's not going to stop here. Obviously, we laid that on for the podcast recording. Let's get down the other side.
Very well planned. Another one
Is
coming.
there another one?
Yeah.
And I should say it's autumn now, isn't it? And we're in the sort of season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. And there was certainly a bit of mist when I was arriving here this morning earlier. And the weather's a bit uncertain. There was a bit of sun and a bit of possible rain. And the harvest's being taken in. And our objective is to get to the church in the village of Southeast. Oh, it is raining now. I think we might need to cover up some of our equipment. One of the other things I've noticed about your songs is that it's not just about traditional songs, i.e. songs that have been handed down from ear to mouth and ear to mouth. You like to sort of dig out writers, like the guy we heard about from Brighton earlier on. You like to dig out these obscure writers, don't you?
Yeah, I think as a band, when we first set off, we wanted to find sort of lost and forgotten songs where the melody has been lost over years, but the words have remained, and then sort of bring them back into circulation. So that's how we started, and then we started finding writers like Horace Smith and Richard Jefferies, who we thought were important, interesting storytellers that had not had a light shined on them for a while.
Are you the researcher, Ben? Do you go and delve into the Bodleian Library and all that?
Yeah, we all have a go. But I'm a big fan of doing that. So yeah, we do a lot of endless reading, and there's a lot of things you don't want to use, or a lot of things that need a good edit. But yeah, there's a lot of really good unused stuff still out there, and it's really exciting to find things that have been forgotten for such a long time.
I think you're going to sing a song called The Welsh Ploughboy. Would you tell us about that?
So yeah, that's a Bodleian broadside that's kept in the Bodleian archive. And it's just a kind of classic love story, really, of heartache, of a Victorian girl who walks out into the fields and sees a boy and falls in love with him immediately, as you do.
Yeah, love at first sight.
Love at first sight, but they can't be together due to their different social status. So she gets very dramatic about it.
But you've made a bit of a twist on the whole thing.
What, with me singing it?
Yes.
Yes.
So you've had a male
I played
voice.
a part of the love-struck woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
It's your favourite part to play,
My
isn't it?
favourite part to play. I don't know. I mean, we're interested in playing around with roles, and it's in terms of myself being gay, it kind of seemed like an interesting take on it. So yeah, I think it puts an interesting spin on it without taking too much away from the original story.
Well, I think there's a great place to sing it just here, because we're coming to a swing bridge, and we can take a little detour off the path, and we can stand by the river and in the field, and it feels like you might conjure up a ploughboy there.
We'll see if he's lurking.
And as you say, it's autumn now, but this song is set, as are all good folk songs, in the merry month of May.
Naturally.
Naturally.
We can imagine ourselves in May.
Yeah, exactly. With slightly less damp, perhaps. Morning.
Hello.
It's the best looking hike you've ever seen all day.
Oh, that's right. Quite right.
Probably a low bar though, isn't it?
So we have to cross another bridge now, and we're just, this is a bridge over the river, and it's a swing bridge, which says something about the industrial past of this area. We're going to check on the other side, but we think this is the River Ouse. And there is a board just by the bridge which explains its history, which I'll share with you. But the bridge used to open to let the river traffic through. And yeah, it's quite a big, broad river here. And the surface of the bridge is kind of like railway sleepers underfoot. So here's the board that tells us about the history of this. This is the Southeast Swing Bridge, and it says it's hard to imagine as you look out across the Ouse Valley that this area was once a hive of industry. During the 18th and 19th centuries, with transport by road poor and railways barely in existence, the River Ouse was an essential highway to the heavy industries that once thrived in Lewis. The Southeast Swing Bridge stands as a survivor and reminder of this forgotten age. The original bridge was built around 1790 to reconnect the farmland on either bank of the newly canalised river, never heard that as a verb before, and replace a previous ferry crossing further south. Goods could only travel by water, with boats mostly carrying lime, chalk and coal. So, and there's a bit of the machinery rusting away down there. Is it a picturesque place to sing?
It's perfect.
Yeah? Should we go down there?
I'll sit on the rust.
So in case you didn't hear, they're going to sing a song called the Welsh Ploughboy, which is a traditional song about a woman who falls in love at first sight with a ploughboy, and unfortunately their differences in social status get in the way of their relationship.
All in the month of May, flowers they are springing. I went into the meadow, some pleasures for to find. I went into the meadow and turned myself around. There I saw a pretty Welsh lad ploughing up the ground. Don't put your faith in the ground, don't put your faith in the ground, Now as he was ploughing his furrows deep and low, cleaving clods in pieces his barley for to sow, it is the pretty Welsh lad who runs all in my mind. It is the pretty Welsh lad who runs all in my mind. Don't put your faith in the ground, don't put your faith in the ground, An old man came courting me, a man of birth and fame. Because I would not have him, my father did me blame. It is the pretty Welsh lad who runs all in my mind. It is the pretty Welsh lad who runs all in my mind. Don't put your faith in the ground, don't put your faith in the ground, The pretty skylark would mount up in the air. Then my pretty ploughboy, my tidings he might hear. Perhaps he may prove true to me, and ease my aching heart. Perhaps he may prove true to me, and ease my aching heart. Don't put your faith in the ground, don't put your faith in the ground, don't Don't put your faith in the ground. Don't put your faith in the ground. An old man I do disdain, his wealth and all his store. Oh, give me to my ploughboy, and I will ask no more. He is the flower of his country, a diamond in my eye. It's for the pretty Welsh lad that I for love must die.
That's fantastic. And also there was some birdsong interventions. There was a gull I heard in the background, which is one of the joys of singing outside. Do you like singing outside, Laura?
Yeah, I mean, we have done it on quite a few occasions. It's funny, isn't it, being in a folk band, collective, whatever we want to call ourselves, because we do end up playing in some quite interesting places. You know, waking up at 8 in the morning to go and sing some songs in a field is maybe not the work of a rapper. I mean, I could be wrong.
Let's move on. Let's keep going. And we should talk about Richard Jefferies, because Richard Jefferies is the nature writer who was behind one of your albums. And particularly, let's talk about him first, and then we'll talk particularly about the book After London, which inspired your album. So who was Richard Jefferies, and why should we be paying attention to him?
He was a Victorian nature writer who was obsessed with nature, but he wasn't such a big fan of people. So he wrote a book called After London, which was kind of like his futuristic fantasy of what England would be like if most of the people were mysteriously wiped out. So it's a really...
So it's an apocalyptic
vision.
vision.
A really early example of post-apocalyptic literature. London is lost under a big filthy swamp, and so it's a band of people who kind of gather around where London was.
Some cyclists are coming through, so let's just let them through. So London is lost.
London is lost, yeah, and it's like people have heard rumours of London passed down through generations. So, yeah, it's an interesting book.
Why did it appeal particularly to you?
We heard that the writer had convalesced in Brighton, and I think he's buried over in Worthing. So he had that kind of local connection, and I thought it was just a really interesting story. And we kind of started playing around with it and talking about it as a band, and then COVID happened, which
It seemed like a bit of a signal, presumably.
Exactly, yeah.
The apocalypse was arriving.
Yeah, so we thought, we kind of have to do it now. But then we were wondering if it was a bit on the nose, but we're like, we've made the album now.
It's really strange timing, wasn't
It was.
Because you, Ben absolutely would kind of discovered this and had the idea in the first place and kind of brought it to us. And it was really not that long before COVID happened. So it was a very strange situation to find ourselves in, that we'd prepared a load of demos for an album about an apocalypse that then was actually happening in real life.
That must have felt very weird.
Really strange, but I think like what Ben was saying earlier about things feeling really relevant, even though some of the language is a bit archaic, there was something quite comforting in hearing how people had got through, because we did a lot of research around other plagues and things, that could have led to the end of the world kind of thing, and hearing about how people got through. Survived, yeah, and made it through.
Because in the album you take the Jefferies book as a kind of jumping off point, but then you head off in other directions, don't you?
Yeah, so Jefferies' book doesn't actually say what the end of the world was. He doesn't sort of imagine that. He just comes after it's all happened.
Here we are, yes.
Yeah, so we kind of created a backstory using plague poetry, cotton famine poetry.
Cotton famine poetry, what is that?
So that was around the cotton workers being starved out, basically.
In Lancashire?
Yes. So we used various different pieces to kind of construct this backstory of a disaster.
And they were starved out by the employers?
Yeah, exactly that. So we kind of used different texts to represent different horsemen of the apocalypse and kind of carved out this backstory, of a thriving city that kind of crumbles under the weight of the horsemen of the apocalypse.
Right.
And we couldn't record the album because we were all locked down.
So you couldn't get together?
Yeah, and it was interesting, there's a song, our oldest text,
Sorry, there's a tractor now.
Coming as well.
Should we just
Side.
on the same side?
We should have done it.
Quieter in Brighton, yeah.
Done it on the 1A as well. So yeah, we compiled this album of demos to record the album about the end of the world, and then we couldn't get together to record it because the end of the world was happening. And it was interesting, one of the songs on the album, Litany, it's our oldest text, it's plague poetry. It was written for a play at the time, in about the year 1400. It was written for a play called Summer's Last Will and Testament, and they actually couldn't perform the play because of a plague outbreak. So it kind of, we felt...
That's unbelievable.
It felt very, it reflected our situation, not being able to get together. But like Laura's saying, it's kind of comforting to see people having gone through these experiences again and again and again, and be able to survive it.
And we're arriving now in the village of Southease, which frankly looks as though it hasn't changed much since the 1400s, doesn't it? I mean, there's thatched cottage ahead of us, the little downland church to the right, and the village green here. We can climb onto the village green, and maybe, Laura, you could read a passage from the Richard Jefferies book just to get us in the mood, and then you could perform the song.
Absolutely, yeah. The old men say their fathers told them that soon after the fields were left to themselves, a change began to be visible. It became green everywhere in the first spring after London ended, so that all the country looked alike. The meadows were green, and so was the rising wheat which had been sown, but which neither had nor would receive any further care. Such arable fields as had not been sown, but where the last stubble had been ploughed up, were overrun with couch grass, and where the short stubble had not been ploughed, the weeds hit, so that there was no place which was not more or less green. The footpaths were the greenest of all, for such is the nature of grass, where it's once been trodden on, and by, as the summer came on, the former roads were thinly covered with the grass that had spread out from the margin. In the autumn, as the meadow were not mown, the grass withered as it stood, falling this way and that, as the wind had blown it. The seeds dropped, and the bennets became a greyish white, or where the docks and sorrel were thick, a brownish red. The wheat, after it had ripened, there being no one to reap it, had also remained standing, and was eaten by clouds of sparrows, rooks and pigeons, which flocked to it and were undisturbed, feasting at their pleasure.
After London ended, everything was green, the meadows and the rising wheat. After London ended, the wheat, when it had ripened, with no one left to reap, was eaten by the sparrows. After London ended. Old men say their fathers in the grave saw change the day that London ended. Footpaths were concealed, and long grass grabbed the feet of those who tried to use them. After London ended, barley, oats and beans appeared, but with diminished force, and coarser plants to choke them. After London ended. Old men say their fathers in the grave saw change the day that London ended. Sights of all the empty towns concealed by the mud, the mighty towns had fallen after London ended. Fields of overripe crops were property of mice, as was the grain left in the barns after London ended. Old men say their fathers in the grave saw change the day that London ended. The mice provided food for cats abandoned in the towns, becoming wild and tameless after London ended. The feral dogs destroyed the rats who more than they could eat. They left their bodies to decay after London ended. The bodies fled the barren land till everything was green, the meadows and the rising wheat after London ended. change. The old men say their fathers in the grave saw change. The old men say their fathers in the grave saw change. The old men say their fathers in the grave saw change. The old men say their fathers in the grave saw change.
That was fantastic. And we haven't heard much from Adam in this podcast, but I want to pay tribute to his feat. Well, it was F-E-A-T, of standing on one leg to play that entire song.
Thank you very much. I've been practicing for, 35 years standing on one leg, and I'm glad that you've recognised all of the hard work I've put into it.
And it was necessary for you to stand on one leg, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm playing the baron here, and usually my setup is I'm sitting down, and today we're outside and I'm standing up, and just to get all of the sounds I needed to be on one leg.
Are you a yoga fanatic? It would look like a yoga position to me.
No.
Maybe you should be.
Maybe I should be, yeah.
Take a couple of downward dogs, you'll be fine. Listen, we're standing right here on the village green. We should, I think, go into the church because I believe that they may be decorating it for the Harvest Festival. So I think it'd be great to go in, don't you?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Come on, Laura, let's go in through the door here. You've got Rosa now. And Rosa is already a budding flautist.
Either that or she's teething.
You've definitely got the flute in her mouth.
Chewing on the end of the flute, which I'm sure is good for the flute.
Oh, wow. This is such a... These churches, these downland churches are so atmospheric.
God, this is beautiful. It's so cool in here, isn't it?
Very cool. Whitewashed walls, some lovely flowers in a bowl on the windowsill, and apples on the windowsill there. And a beautiful rows of ancient wooden pews for everyone to sit down in.
Including you, little Rosa.
Yes, Rosa can sit down in the pew.
She is, yeah.
It would be such a waste if we didn't have a song here in this ancient church, wouldn't it? What are you going to sing?
Absolutely, the acoustics are amazing. We're going to do a song called Tragic Hearts of Towns which is based on a poem called Glasgow by Alexander Smith. And it is, we changed the name from Glasgow for reasons mainly that we don't have any kind of connection with Glasgow. But he talks of flowers on the windowsill, of a city kind of building being the only kind of link to nature that can be spotted. And it's actually perfect in here because there are flowers on every windowsill of this church. And we often end our sets on this because you might have picked up that a lot of our songs, maybe not today, but generally our set is relatively miserable, to be fair. It's all about the plague and the end of the world. So we have to end on something that, lifts people
hope.
up. Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Touches on the major key. Even
Is it even in a major key?
Yeah.
No.
Incredible, isn't it?
Oh, great. All right, well, I'll leave you to it.
son of thine, there dwelt I where morning shine. Instead of shores where ocean beats, I hear the ebb and flow of streams. I dwelt within a gloomy court, wherein did never something sport. My very blood did dance and thrill, had flowers on my windowsill. City I discern another beauty sad and stern. From terrace proud to alley base, I know you as my mother's face. City, you have my kith and kin within your central wild din. The sacredness of love and death dwells in your noise and smoky breath. The darkness sails, I lean against the churchyard rails. The Belford spider street is dead, I hear in silence overhead. I watch the flowers pine for weeks, with leaves as pale as human cheeks. I know the tragic hearts of towns, I know the tragic hearts of towns.
That was fantastic, and all it remains for me to do is to say thank you. Thank you, Laura, thank you, Ben, thank you, Tom, thank you, Adam, for walking with us on the South Downs, for sharing your music and your stories. It's been brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, Bird in the Belly. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Folk on Foot as much as we enjoyed making it. There are over 60 episodes of Folk on Foot for you to explore, featuring amazing artists like Eliza Carthy, Johnny Flynn, The Unthanks, Corrine Polwood, Chris Drever, Sandra Kerr, Catherine Tickell, and many, many more. So please do explore our back catalogue. And if you like what we do, we really need your support to keep going. You can become a member and get great rewards, or you can simply buy us a coffee. To do either, and to sign up for our ad-free version, just go to folkonfoot.com/support-us. Every penny we get goes back into making more episodes, so please do support us if you can.